each of these folks is going to be doing a little bit of a demonstration and sort of sharing with you a little bit about some of these ecosystems. I mean, many of us, how many of you are on Gmail? Okay. How many of you use Hotmail or Yahoo on a daily basis? Now, that's not representative of the world. That's not really how it works. Yes, Gmail might be the fastest growing, but Yahoo is still the most popular in the US, for example, and Hotmail has so much penetration in Europe and in South America, and even in the US, of course, too. And of course, Outlook.com now is picking up a lot of steam. So we all wanted the opportunity to really share kind of what's going on in these major webmail platforms, what we can look forward to. So each of these folks are going to do a little bit of an introduction to kind of the world they're in. Just in terms of a deeper introduction, I'd mentioned Josh before, other inbox their space in the Yahoo Mail ecosystem, but you also have done quite a bit in Gmail and Google Apps and so forth.
AOL too.
And AOL too, yeah. So other inbox is there. Roger Neel is the CTO and co-founder at MavenLink. I mentioned the #1 in the Google Apps marketplace. And you've also done quite a bit of work with Microsoft, with Intuit, and
exactly. We've done a lot of integration with those guys and have started. I know somebody here is from the Agave platform, codenamed Agave. We can talk later.
So David Clow will be speaking later about the new place where you can purchase apps right for Outlook and right for Office. And David Dennis is the principal program manager at Outlook.com, so he's a local as well. And you may have noticed that there's been a lot of releases both in the consumer and in the business email platform. So in a later session, the other David from Microsoft will be talking about more of the business side. But I'm going to hand it over to you, David.
So my name is David Dennis. I work here on this campus, the entire Outlook.com mail and calendar team, and the former Hotmail team. We've now got a new upgraded version. How many of you guys grabbed an Outlook.com email address? So now we got to get all of you that raised your hand for both Gmail and Outlook.com. Give Outlook.com a try. You can pop aggregate into it. You can sync your Google contacts. Give it a try for a week. I think you'll be impressed. But Microsoft folks that are on the Outlook.com team, raise your hands. So if you have any questions, you can go talk to those folks. And I just want to do a very, very quick demo. How many of you have actually played with Outlook.com? Cool. Spend some more time in it. It's pretty impressive. So we've got sort of a different perspective on email. Just a lot less clutter. You can see in Google there's tons of stuff going on. You open up a mail, they're reading your mail, and they're serving up advertising based on what they read. And there's just an awful lot going on in one place. And so I want everyone to just take a deep breath. And then when I count to 3, I want you to just say, ah. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah. It's just a clean experience. Very much aligned with what was formerly called Metro, now a modern user interface. What you're going to see here is almost identical to what you see on the Windows 8 client that's about to come out. And it also maps to what we've done on the phone, Windows Phone, on Xbox. We've got a central design language that we're using across the company, and Outlook.com is part of that experience. And of course, it can sync across all your devices as well. We support Active Sync. I know many of you have asked about IMAP. It's something we're looking at. If you have interest in partnering with us in some way, Steve Kafka can raise his hand. You can talk to him. But Outlook.com will sync across all of your devices, mail, calendar, contacts, because we use Active Sync. So I just want to show you a couple of the features, and I'm just going to do this probably quicker than I had planned since we're a little bit behind schedule. But here's a feature called Instant Action. So I come in, I've got a lot of stuff in my inbox. We automatically categorize newsletters and social updates and things that have photos and make those easier for you to triage and get through. And I've created a little quick rule here to automatically move certain messages with one click into my archive folder. And I accidentally missed the hit target there. And so let's see, I can do that. I can quickly delete things that I know that I don't want to get through those quickly. I can also flag things, and we've got a different take on flagging. The flag will roam across all your devices because it'll sync through Active Sync. But if I want to come back to a certain email later, it's something I really think is important. If I click it, and I'm going to come back to these in a sec, it not only flags it, but it pins it to the top. Now I can change that setting, but now those are emails that are pinned to the top that I've decided are priority for me. Now the other thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to sweep away some of the clutter that's in my inbox. And so I get a lot of newsletters. So here's a Surfline newsletter, and I just don't want to get that anymore. Maybe I accidentally clicked that button when I checked out to buy something, and all of a sudden now I'm getting all this bacon or gray mail. And I can just sweep those away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all from this sender. And let's say I want to block all future messages from this sender as well. And pow. It's just taken all 14 of those messages out of my inbox, and I'll never get them again. No worrying about clicking on the unsubscribed link that goes to the site and I have to authenticate. They're all gone. And I'm going to do the same thing for Macy's. Macy's, let's say, I actually want to keep. So I'm going to move those to my archive folder that I've created. And now all 75 of those Macy's newsletters that have been sitting in my piled up inbox are now in a folder. Groupon I'm going to handle a little bit differently. With Groupon, you may only want the latest because yesterday, it's not really relevant anymore. So I can schedule a cleanup for those. And let's say I'm only going to keep the latest from this sender, or maybe I only want to keep the latest for the last 3 days. So in this case, I'm going to say only keep the latest from this sender. And now, going forward, I only have the latest Groupon. And so we make it super, super quick because we're helping, first of all, auto-identifying things. You can say all newsletters automatically do this, or only from this sender automatically do that. And so it's a way to create rules very, very quickly for just your average user. Notice that advertising as well, very harmonious with the product, pretty, not in your way. We're not reading through all your contents of your mail to try and serve you ads that we think are relevant. And we also have some really interesting functionality related to people. So where's Scott Morrison? Scott, this is a mail from Scott. I've connected my Twitter account to Outlook.com, and now I see the latest tweet from Scott. I can also see him on Facebook to see if I want to add him as a friend. Yep, there he is. And I'm not logged into Facebook, but you get the idea. And I can also go and get a mail from Jared. And even though we're not friends, he's publicly searchable from this email address on Facebook. And so I see his picture, get that personal connection. And I also am able to link through to his profile. And if I want, I'm going to add him as a friend.
You're not logged in. No friends.
There we go. And I've just sent that request right from within Outlook.com. So rather than read your email and serve you advertising based on when you're having a person-to-person communication, we respect that private communication, and instead we show you things that we think are relevant to the people with whom you're communicating. So real people, no advertising, and the stuff that you really want to see. Next time Jared hopefully will accept my friend request, when I log in again and go to Jared's email, I'll see his latest status update on the right, and of course I can click through to his profile, I can comment, I can like right in line. So respecting those person-to-person communications. And then the last feature I'm going to show you is where's Chong Han? Chong Han, the designer of our Compose experience, very different take on Compose. We're very focused on just the actions that you care about at the time. So the menu at the top changes, it's contextual, and we're only focusing in on the Compose experience here. And these are the people I've recently communicated with. I'm going to send Jennifer an email. Check it out. It's all personal with her picture because she and I are connected on Facebook, and I'm bringing in that picture. Yo, demo time. And I hit send and done. And I'm going to do one more here. I'm going to do a quick send. I'm going to send this message to myself. And we know that people are attaching documents all the time and sending around these giant files. We have virtually unlimited storage. And we also allow you to send things via SkyDrive. I just turned this into a SkyDrive attachment. And now anybody on any platform in any browser can open up that document on the web without having the Office client with full fidelity. And they can even edit it. And the permissioning was just done automatically with the person I sent the message to. So I can actually edit this document, and the fidelity is phenomenal, far better than folks down the street who happen to be in walking distance from here. And I'd have to sign in with my live ID. But the idea, to see the document to edit the document. But the idea is that we can send documents around, and I can even send photos, lots and lots and lots of photos, up to 300 megabytes each, and many, 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 many photos if I decide to send them through SkyDrive, and I get a rich photo gallery view in the message. And again, all that stuff I can view on SkyDrive without having to have any client installed whatsoever. And on the Office side, it works with OneNote, with Word, with Excel, with PowerPoint, and allows you to have that rich web access right from within any browser experience. So there's tons more. I encourage you guys, all of you that are squatting on cool Outlook.com accounts. I happen to have d@outlook.com, which has turned into, believe it or not a spam bucket, because we actually have phenomenal spam filtering. But I got a great email address. Those of you that got great email addresses, give it a try for a week. Pop aggregate with Gmail, sync your contacts with Google, and you can bring those in. You can even chat with all your Facebook friends, and we'll have Skype coming soon. And all of that's done right within the inbox. Any quick questions?
We'll take some questions after.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
So we're a software as a service platform for consultants and professional services organizations to work with their clients. And you know, as you might imagine, when we're building our software, obviously a lot of people, especially the clients, are in their email quite a bit. And so when we talk about collaboration and that kind of thing, email comes up quite a bit. And so we've done quite a bit of integration with Google. You can't really see my mouse. Yeah. So we've done a very deep integration with all of the Google products. Gmail, Calendar, Docs, and Contacts. And really when Jared asked me to speak, when I thought about webmail, the way we see it is webmail is a big platform, much like Outlook in the traditional sense was a platform on a desktop PC. Outlook always had tasks in it. It had a calendar. It had mail. It's not just about mail. So when we think about our own product in the context of Google Apps and now Microsoft apps and other application platforms with mail, we think about the whole ecosystem. So rather than just spamming somebody's inbox with every request that's coming through, we try to take targeted approaches on where we message people within the overall platform. So just to give you, the reason I've got Maven Link up is just to kind of frame, we have collaboration, file uploads, you can attach Google Docs, you can see Michael and Dwight are having some conversations here with their Dunder Mifflin Maven Link. They're working with Joe, their client, to do some sales training, and they have a whole task list of things that are due this month and this week. Basically, you know, the standard consultant deliverables that somebody might do as a professional services person. So if we pop over to Michael's Gmail, maybe some of you aren't familiar with a product called Gmail, but no, just kidding. So this is Google Mail we've integrated with both Gmail as well as Google Apps Mail, and if you look here in the main message body, you can see Dwight and Michael are having in this case, private conversation. Oh, okay, sure. There you go. Is that better? All right. Okay, cool. So what? This is just a conversation thread happening between Dwight and Joe and Michael. But one thing what I'm really pointing out here too is conversations come in and people communicate via Maven Link. This email can be responded to. That goes right into the project as a reply. But rather than taking the traditional approach of sending you task notifications and hey, this has been assigned to you, and hey, you know, this is overdue now, or hey, this is due tomorrow, we're actually using Google Task Lists. So in this case, Michael is fixing Joe's computer and doing some other things, and this is actually synchronizing with the task list that you just saw in Maven Link. As well as in the Google Calendar. So Michael's calendar is relatively empty here, but these blue tasks up top are also things coming from Maven Link across all of his projects. So this has gotten us into a little bit of trouble during like more enterprise sales cycles where it's like, what do you mean you don't send us an email every time something is due or assigned or whatever? We're really trying to change the game a little bit there and kind of use the overall platform, in this case webmail, as something a little bit different. And then just one other example here. We talked a bit about the Microsoft platform. Microsoft is doing some great stuff as well. where they're allowing us as web developers, because that's what I am. I'm not like a hardcore, C++ developer, et cetera. We're able to actually use web technologies to bring things in this case, to Office 365 and SharePoint. So, here's a project list. Here are the various posts that you saw in the product before, and then here's that same task list. These are just mock-ups. I wanted to give you an example, but this is essentially a live web application that would be plugged into Outlook, Word, et cetera. So I think the future of webmail is great because it allows us as web developers to plug in as much as possible.
Thanks so much, Roger. Give this one more try with the demo god. So it's really interesting to see just how much you can do in email that's actually not exactly email. And that was why I wanted Roger to come up here, because so much of us think about this Google ecosystem as being so tied to Gmail. But of course, many of us, I'm sure, are using Docs and calendars and tasks. And there are APIs to connect with all of those. And there's so much you can do within that experience, even in the same screen real estate, that's sort of part of the same world. Want to just try mine?
Yeah.
Let's go for it. We've got the presentation loaded up on our laptop.
We do need to get that.
We'll hope for the best on this.
All right. So, great. Well, what I'm going to go through really quickly is just showing you some of the things about Yahoo Mail and its evolution you might not know if you haven't, if you maybe are more familiar with Gmail. So this is actually the first Yahoo Mail that I started developing on. No, actually, I believe this is Classic Mail. This is the really, really original Yahoo Mail that I first saw. And so I'm taking you back in time a little bit. This was the next version. I think they called Candygram was the code name. And at the bottom, you can see this applications in the bottom left. And that's where our application was. You can see it there called Automatic Organizer. And that's how really about 3 million people found it and clicked on it. And they could see what kind of what to offer them, sign up for it, and use our application through that. This is the latest version of Yahoo Mail, showing also the applications on the left. And you can see they've kind of cleaned it up a lot from the previous one. And through that, we actually got better presentation. We were higher up and saw our conversions go up. Yahoo's also doing a lot of stuff with mobile mail. In fact, I think they were, while you see that this is on the iPhone, that you can add almost any kind of email account, Yahoo was one of the first, I think, that was really well integrated and seems to play across almost many, many different devices and make it easy to sign up. And then they also have a webmail version that runs as well. And you can see within it that it's doing some interesting things around pulling out emails just from your contacts, emails with attachments. I think they were the first ones through the Zoopit acquisition to do pulling out photos. So lots of interesting things there, extended through the mobile experience as well. And this is the iPad app, or the iPad. This is the app. No, it's the mobile experience. This is iPad mobile. And it also has a lot of those same features that we saw on the web. For us, this is where just a blow up of the place where we got promoted. And you can see in here there's attach large files is you send it, Automatic Organizer is us, there's a few other, Evite obviously, so a number of different partners that have been able to plug into the Yahoo platform. And the interesting thing is here, everybody thinks of Google as being really open, and they were one of the first ones that kind of had a gallery, and they made it so anybody could put something in the gallery. And as much as I think it's worked pretty well for you, and it works well on B2B, I don't think it works very well for consumer at all. I don't know anybody getting any real adoption there. It's very hard for people to actually discover things in the Google Apps marketplace. And in that way, this worked really, really well for us. And right now in Google, there's no way to get inside of Gmail, to get exposure or distribution inside of Gmail directly. It's really all been focused on the business users in Google Apps. One of the great integrations that Yahoo has right now that I think is probably the future of a lot of the best email platforms and integrations, and as you think about how you're going to partner with potentially a different email provider, is what they've done with YouSendIt, which is their attach files component. And so you can see that in addition to just the normal attach files, they have a button that says attach large files. And when you click on that, it pops up basically an explanation for their partner, YouSendIt, and how you can use them to send large files through your email. And what's really great about this is that it's completely contextual, right? It's not an ad, it's not promoted somewhere. The users don't have to look for it or go somewhere else, but right at the time that they need it, it's right there. And I would argue you might even be able to potentially get rid of the second button, and just if they try to upload a file that's too big, you should pop them into this other path. And while I'm not with YouSendIt, I don't have any specific data about what's worked, how this has worked for them. I would imagine that this is very, very highly effective for them, really effective at converting users and bringing people in, because it's the right thing at the right time in the right place. And but that's hard to do. It's hard to make those kind of integrations. It requires a deeper level of cooperation. But that's the kind of thing as a startup you want to be looking for. You want to figure out, how do I not just get a banner ad, but how do I really get myself integrated in the experience and make this part of what people do? And that is really all I have on Yahoo Mail. So Dave, happy to spend the spot. Anything wrong there? All right, great. Let's jump into the panel.
Hello.
Cool. Great. Well, thanks. The word is mom from Yahoo, but we're seeing lots of cool stuff. It's interesting just how much we're seeing that's kind of changing in the UI. So it sounds to me that a lot of the user experience has been changing with Yahoo, as per Josh's last comment, and also in Outlook.com, as per David, what he was just sharing. So I'm curious, how it's affected, for example, you, Roger, as a developer, when this UI is changing. How has that made a difference, and how has that affected your decisions when their UI has been changing?
Sure. So I actually want to touch on something Josh said, because it's absolutely true. Gmail has two types of widgets that you can drop in. One is a contextual widget, and the other one's a sidebar widget, and they're extraordinarily limiting. They're great from like an API standpoint to be able to call out to your, in my case, software as a service.
It's open.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like you have almost no, to the question, control over the UI whatsoever. It's up to me to filter out messages so that I only bring Maven Link to the fore when it's relevant to the user. But even then, the user can't send it away. If you're looking at like a whole organization of 100 people, 50 people can't turn it off. It's either all or none. And so then you end up getting terrible reviews as a provider, because maybe only 20 people in an organization of 100 use our product because it's relevant to them as project managers or whatever, but the CEO is seeing Maven Link widget like every time an email comes up talking about anything task related or project related. Sure. So it's yeah.
And how about you, Josh, in terms of the Yahoo UI? That's changed a bit more even.
Yeah, so I showed a couple different versions that went through there, and this is one of those things you'll hear a lot of talk about with Twitter as an example of building on somebody else's ecosystem and what some of the challenges are there, right? That you don't control everything and things can change. And so I showed a couple different versions of Yahoo Mail, and what was really interesting is as they went from the I don't know what to call them besides what the internal names were, but the second version to the third version meaning what you see now, the layout changed, and it actually was a better change for us. Like when they changed that, our numbers went up. The whole time before that, we were getting warnings from Yahoo saying, hey, we don't know what this is going to do to you guys. Like, I mean, they were trying to be helpful, but they were like, hey, we're worried. Like, you might get less traffic when we switch this because we're going to change the way this works. And we were really stressing about it, going, well, what's this going to be like? What's going to happen as the UI changes around and where we are and it moves? And so that really caused a lot of stress for us. It turned out to work okay in that case. But it was it was really big, a lot of risk.
Can I ever ask a random question? How many of you in this room have browser plugins for Gmail? I know, okay, a lot of folks. Has Google contacted you before they make UI changes? That's a joke. So that's interesting that that's happened, because that's something that we have a plugin, of course, and it's definitely a really, really challenging time. I mean, you're the #1 product in the marketplace. Are they communicative with a lot of this stuff?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I laughed at the joke.
Yeah.
Well, and also, the other thing with that too is, 2 years ago, there was an army of marketplace evangelists. Mm-hmm. Now they are Chrome store evangelists or something else. And so, I've also seen, I don't know if you've seen this, but I feel like the allocation of resources to it has changed over time. There was a lot of support for it. I'm sure there still is support and there's still help, but it's less than it was as the focus has changed to other products.
Sure. So it's interesting. So both of you guys are developing on the platforms. You're obviously representing Microsoft. Now, what we've seen here is we've seen a lot of changes, in terms of these ecosystems. Gmail and Google has both an ecosystem to some extent that they support, through the marketplace and through the Chrome web store. And there's a lot of applications that are building on top of it. There's far fewer that are in the Yahoo ecosystem. It could be because maybe they're more consumer focused, or it could also just be that from a partnership perspective, there isn't just a very easy distribution method. But when we see, particularly the most recent version of Outlook.com, we see even less opportunity for that. We're seeing a lot with Facebook. We're seeing things with LinkedIn and different types of integrations that you either have or you're working on. I don't know if LinkedIn's in there, but the idea is that there's some bigger players. Could you talk to Microsoft's view going forward with developers on the Outlook.com platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think folks should go to David. David raised hand in the session, I think, after 11 o'clock. I don't know where we are on time
But that's
today.
business.
From an enterprise perspective, the development opportunity is phenomenal. I think you talked about that with SharePoint and Office 365, Exchange, Outlook, the client, and David can talk to some of that. The perspective we've taken from a consumer, our consumer service, Outlook.com, is to integrate with things that we think are going to be valuable, useful, powerful, out of the box for hundreds of millions of people immediately. And that's just where we focused our energy. And when I see, Yahoo's starting to minimize some of their investment, it looks like, in the developer platform, and I hear stories about sometimes maybe it's difficult to work with Gmail, it just they have a different perspective on it. And I know there are great opportunities for folks in this room on other platforms, but for us, when you get to, in the hundreds of millions, or in the Facebook's case, billion of, users, those are the places where we're just focusing our energy. And it just comes down to prioritization for us. The social features that you saw that I demoed, Scott Morrison was the driver for that. They just work by default, out of the box, in our UI, with our design language, for everyone. The You Send It feature that you showed, we do exactly that with SkyDrive, natively, out of the box, for every single user. And so we've just decided to focus on the hundreds of millions of users that are using our service with the large partners in the places where you actually live. Everybody's on Facebook, everybody's on Twitter, most of you. Everybody's on LinkedIn, and so we have super powerful, controlled experiences with those partners. And for right now, that's going to be our approach. On the enterprise side, it's a different story, and I think you'll hear some interesting things from David later.
Yeah, I feel like I talk to a lot of email startups, and a common, I've kind of almost got like I could just record this for every new conversation, but I feel like as a startup, you look at it and you say like, wow, like I'm gonna get like 1 million people using this, and that feels like a lot, and it's a big deal, and like and it's I have to kind of frame it for them a lot of times like that's just absolutely nothing to one of the big providers. That's not it's a good sign. I mean, obviously people are using it, and that's a sign of something, but like they could. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but they could copy that feature or whatever it is that you're doing and roll it out to 100 million people, in a much shorter period of time. And if it was that compelling, and if it's only compelling to 1 million people, only 1 million people, then that's almost not that interesting. And so when you think about the landscape of email, right? Email is continuing to evolve and to get more and more adoption. And it used to be for certain kinds of people. Well, now email's for everyone. Everyone is going to use email, and the game they're playing is how to build email for everybody. And that's the game that a lot of these other players are playing. Sure. And most of the startups aren't. You're building something for somebody very specific. And so what I often encourage them is don't try to win that game, because the competition is really tough. And beyond resources and money and everything else, they have users. They have 100 million people or more to look at and to learn from. More. Yeah, to learn from and to say, and that's probably the most valuable thing they have. But it's a real challenge, and and you can build something that works for millions of people and still not be that significant in this world.
Sure. So it's interesting, the trends of Yahoo and Microsoft, and we're not necessarily sure what's happening with Gmail. I'm scared that something's going to happen. I mean, my product does a particular thing in Gmail, and we've got great companies in here like the Boomerangs and the TideUps of the world that do things on top of email, some of which are more feature-rich and some of which are smaller, sort of point solutions that do play a big role in our lives. So one of the reasons why I'm glad to have you here, Roger, is that you've sort of built a product outside of it, but you've integrated deeply with other parts of it. So I'm curious if you can speak to some of the things that one can do if they're in the email space to sort of prevent you from being replaced, if you will, on a platform.
Yeah, sure. I'll take a stab at it. As Jared said, what we really did was start out with building a platform that people could actually get value out of outside of email. That's just a unique position that we were in that maybe a quote-unquote email startup wouldn't necessarily be in. But I definitely urge people to build really kind of defensible technology in the background that actually does something. I know, like a Wayfind, you might be a little bit nervous, but everything that we've talked about with the back end of the product, it's really valuable, and there's a lot of IP there. And so rather than just kind of, like, I know some of the Appleization of everything has all been around, you know, hey, let's just develop a great UI, let's kind of better UI. You know, it's really important to also kind of have a background of technology too that's defensible, that isn't just kind of makeable overnight.
Sure. So I know I've asked a bunch of questions. We sort of had a theme here. We have time. I'd like to take just 2 questions from the audience, if that would be great. Does anybody have any questions? You, ma'am?
And can you introduce yourself?
And please introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm Jessalyn from Mozilla Firefox, and I actually have a question for Dave, kind of on the email marketing side of things, as far as with the sweeping and with the block user sends, how that work, is there communication sent back to the ESP that's sending, saying, hey, this is bounced, or they're blocking you, or are you just going to end up in the junk folder?
So Jessalyn's question from Mozilla was, how does the sweep feature behave in Outlook.com, or the ESPs getting communication back when that sort of stuff is happening? You know, what's the actual
Typically called
behavior?
the feedback loop.
The feedback
Yeah,
loop.
we do have an unsubscribe feature in our UI as well, where we do try to provide that feedback loop. The interesting thing is that you really don't want people reading the messages if they don't want them. I mean, you don't want them in their inbox if they don't want them. What we're actually finding is when people do the schedule cleanup and the sweep, the data suggests that they actually read more mail. So even though they're getting mail out of their inbox, they're actually reading more mail because it's only the things they want. So in terms of the feedback loop, when there's an unsubscribe action, we do try to provide that. The real feedback loop is you guys just understanding what your read rates are. So there isn't, it's with some of those features, you're right. I mean, there isn't a feedback loop that happens directly, but you guys are obviously tracking read rates and things like that. But again, you only want the things in the inbox from a marketing perspective that people really want. And as I said, people that use those features actually are reading more mail because it's only the things in their inbox that they actually want.
One real challenge about that too, though, is that and I realize this isn't your problem, this is the sender's problem, but they're sending the mail.
Sure.
You start basically not delivering it. Depending on how you evaluate their mail, now their open rates are dropping even more.
Sure.
So like over time, if they can't stop sending to the people that don't want it, it actually just makes them look worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And it's it's not your problem, but it's a real challenge for senders.
I mean,
that deal with.
basically, we're just providing users with a much, hundreds of millions of consumers with a very easy way to create a quick rule without having to think to go in and create a rule. And so the rule functionality exists everywhere, and anybody can use it. I get that we're making it maybe a little bit more challenging for you guys, but that just means that you should be sending super valuable messages that everyone wants.
Exactly.
Okay. Time for one more question. You sir in the back?
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Justin from Advanix. So Ajax has been around for 12 years. And first initial use for Ajax was actually for Microsoft Web Access. Outlook Web Access.
Outlook Web.
Okay.
12 years later, we still don't have any sort of interactivity within email per se.
Or just JavaScript.
Yeah, JavaScript, anything, right? My question today is like, what's up with active views, and when are we going to start seeing real innovation with interactive email?
I mean, there are a couple of startups here.
So the question just is,
Yeah,
was
sorry.
the history.
I can answer.
You can answer. You can repeat it.
What's going on with interactive email? What's the future of that? We had something we talked about 18 months ago here called Active Views. There are 2 startups here that are going to be talking a little bit more about interactive email. There's a session later. Certainly go to that. I mean, the reality was we've got 2 things for us that were Active Views. One is interactivity in the body of the email. The other one is functionality that we build to allow you to track your package and to look at videos and to look at slideshows. And we're always looking to do more sort of parsing from email and exposing things. To be perfectly blunt, the interactive email canvas itself just didn't turn out to be that successful from an ROI perspective for senders. So either we're way ahead of our time, or there may be some different approach that has to be taken to make development easier, to make performance better. And then the other big challenge from an ROI perspective is, we're all on devices all the time, and we're all on multiple different platforms. And as some of that consumption experience moves away from the web, it's very difficult to control the experience across all the platforms. And so I think that was one of the other challenges. Until there's sort of an industry standard that everybody's adopting, then I think it's going to be challenging.
Great.
Stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, so and we have Vivek Sharma from Movable Link will be speaking this afternoon about interactivity in email. So just one last question for each of you, 30 seconds. Talk just a little bit about what developers and businesses should be aware about for Yahoo, Google, and Microsoft.
From a developer perspective, if you have interest in working with us on the consumer side, we're always open to hearing ideas and getting perspective on what you want to do. You can talk to me or Steve Kafka, who's got another one of these t-shirts over there, who works on the protocol side. And then I really encourage everybody to come to the session later where we're going to be talking about developer experience for our enterprise customers.
I would just throw out that you gotta Yahoo, Gmail, and AOL all support IMAP and OAuth, and that is a fairly strong place to start for building your own thing that's not too dependent on other stuff. You have to worry about that doesn't address UI and other things like that, but that seems to be a sweet spot, or a browser plugin. Those to me seem to be the real viable option.
Yeah, echoing a little bit of OAuth too. I know this is a little techie, but we've done 3 big integrations, Google, Intuit, and Microsoft, and all 3 use OAuth. It's definitely like a future platform, and like we've been able to just write a lot of code on top of kind of a common framework. With Google, they're doing a lot with Drive these days. They've got quite a few new APIs that are coming out, and I think it's they're doing a lot more with push and pull versus polling, so like calendars, doing push notifications to external providers that provide callbacks and things like that. So definitely some neat stuff happening.
Take a look at SkyDrive as well. We've got a pretty powerful developer and API story for SkyDrive, and we're doing some really neat apps and things with partners. So take a look at that as well.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. A wonderful panel.